What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Ask a Fence Gal Friday. I know what you're thinking. Where's the fence gal? What's up with this? Where's Sarah? It's a good question. There's probably several questions actually that you're asking about. You know, will she ever be back? Has she given up on Facebook Live completely? Is she searching for the truth about these aliens inside the moon? I mean, all these are valid questions, and I mean, any one of them could be true, I guess. The reality is, Sarah had a little bit of dental work done yesterday. She went in and she found out she needed a little bit more done than what she had thought. And it's her story, so I'll let her talk about it next week. But hopefully she'll be joining us in the chat here in a little while if she's not too indisposed. Starting off, what is up, Dustin? How are you, buddy? It's been a while since I've seen you. Hope everything is doing well. Hope you're doing super well. Hope the rest of you guys are doing super well too. It's been a long week. It's our second full week after Thanksgiving. Of course, we're looking forward to a short week here in the next couple weeks for Christmas. Here at the fence company, so we'll be closed Christmas Eve and Christmas. Let the guys, and gals do their traveling to go see family or prepare for family to be traveling in. So we got a couple more full weeks left. It's been a good week. Today, of course, a little bit rainy, but we're still getting work done. All the crews are actually out. One of the crews is actually already done with their day, and another one of the crews is about half done. They're done with one of their projects. The wood crew wrapped up a project this morning, and then checked in a little bit ago and said that they were starting on the second one. So a little bit of rain never scares a fence gal. So yeah, hope you guys are doing super well. So usually we fill up the time by interviewing Sarah and asking her questions and seeing how the week's going production wise, how the week's going next week. And while I do stay up with that, she's always just a little bit more on top of it than I am. But I know we've got another big week planned next week. It doesn't sound like we're supposed to get a lot of weather next week, so we should stay on track. Of course, like always. So this week, as we've talked about almost every one of these broadcasts, we keep Wednesday open as a flex day. And then, so this week we actually worked a little bit ahead. So Wednesday we did a little bit of some pre-work. So that's why one of the crews is already done today. They knew it was going to be rainy on Friday, and they wanted to get as much work done as possible. So yeah, so that's probably the game plan for next week is check the weather and see where we're looking at. See if we need to work ahead a little bit on Wednesday. Hello, Ashley. Welcome. Ashley's with Stainless Steel Experts up in Nashville, or over in Nashville, I guess I should say. Welcome. Appreciate you guys coming in and viewing with us. As you guys come in, why don't you leave a chat or a comment in the chat? Let me know you're here, because Facebook and YouTube just show me how many people are here, but they don't show me who's here. And I'd sure like to get a chance to say hi to you. Of course, answer any fence related questions you guys might have. My plan today is obviously say hello to you guys, answer any questions as they come up, but also, so I do a YouTube live every Thursday afternoon for my personal YouTube channel. And so today we'll probably just talk about a few of those subjects. They're pretty relevant to right now, and they're also relevant to fence. So it'd be pretty good to talk about and bring them up. But of course, I'd really like to answer your guys' questions live too. So as you guys have questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the chat below. Hello, Mandy. How are you? It's good to see you here as well. Mandy is also with Stainless Steel Experts. She's one of let's call them the dream team. She's part of the dream team there at Stainless Steel Experts. I think everyone there, honestly, is part of the dream team, but we'll say they're each a dream team member. Brent, what is up? Brent's over in California. Welcome, buddy. Not much is going on, homie. It's so right now it's kind of cool and rainy. It's a dreary day, if we're all being honest. Yesterday was a really nice day. We got a lot of fence stuff done. That's the thing. So Wednesday and Thursday were both upper 60s, lower 70s, partly sunny. It was a great time to be building fence. So we got quite a bit done. Today, it's probably low 50s, mid 50s, maybe drizzling rain. Just not really enjoyable. How are things with you? How are things out in California? So Brent, interestingly enough, so if you guys remember, if you guys were viewing with us a couple weeks ago, Brent had mentioned he's sending crab out, and I am over the moon about that. So Brent, he lives over California. He's got a dive boat. He goes diving for lobsters and crabs and fish, and I live vicariously through his video upload. So Brent, welcome. Let us know how things are going out there on the left coast. All right. So yeah, let's start off with this. Let's start off with we had a pretty lively discussion yesterday. It started off in the Facebook in one of the Facebook fence groups, and it transferred over, followed over into the YouTube discussion uh, yesterday afternoon. But it's easements, and utilities. The picture that was put up on Facebook was of utility lines that were basically right on the property line. They're right up against an existing fence. It looked like there's three of them, and it looked to me like they were red. Now, colors always get weird when you're taking colors with a camera, depending on the lighting, and then you upload it on the internet. Is something done with the coloring? Who knows? They look red to me. Red is typically electric. So there is a lot of discussion on, well, electric's usually buried 36 inches. So as long as you're only digging 2 foot deep, you should be fine. And then, there's other discussions where you just hand dig, you dig really gently. We had a really good discussion yesterday, and our stance is we don't dig within 2 foot of a utility line without some sort of waiver being signed that releases us from liability for damaging that utility. The paint is there for a reason, right? So the problem with the paint, not the problem, I guess, but one of the issues with the paint is that it's never super accurate. So you get a 2 foot or the utility markers get a 2 foot margin of error on either side of that line. So, if the dot of paint is, right down this cable here, there's a 4 foot spot, there's a 4 foot swath, 2 foot on either side of this thing where you can't dig, where you shouldn't be digging, because the utility line could actually be anywhere in that 4 foot swath, 4 foot path. So knowingly digging in that, you're taking on the liability for if you happen to damage that line. Now, sometimes you damage a line and you don't even know it. Sometimes you can nick a line thinking, if it's pressed up against a rock and you're using your rock bar to pry that rock out and you nick the line, you might not even know it, but you damage it. And then what do you know? A few weeks later, you get a bill because the utility company had come out, they got an outage reporting. So they came out, figured out exactly where the breakage was, which is right at your fence post, repaired it, and then they sent you the bill. And they can legally do that because you dug within 2 foot of that marked utility. So we don't ever dig within 2 foot without some sort of liability waiver. And that's typically for telecommunications. If we're talking about phone lines or internet lines, that sort of thing. But if we're talking about electricity, there's no chance we dig within 2 foot of an electric line of a marked electric utility. It's just not. It's not worth. It's not worth the. Not worth the hassle. It's not worth the threat to, bodily injury. I mean, if you hit an electric service line, I mean, there's pictures floating around the internet of, steel diggers that are welded to so they're typically in conduit. So that's the other comment that's usually in this. Like, well, they're in conduit. So if you hit the conduit, you just stop. Well, there's pictures floating around out there of diggers welded to this conduit because, something's wrong with the line inside of it, or they nicked it, or whatever. Or, other stories about, diggers getting blown out of a hole because it hit an electric line. And it's not worth the risk to my team members. I wouldn't do it personally because I feel like it's not worth the risk to my health. And if we're being honest, it's not fair to my family to put myself in that position. So I'm certainly not going to put our team members in that position. Utility markings they're always a big discussion because utilities always end up being right around a property line. Seems like typically they're telecommunications. And the thing is, so the next question is, well, that's part of building a fence. You should just accept the liability. The problem with that is, telecom utilities start at $2,000 or $3,000 to repair one of these. The bills are on average $2,000 or $3,000. If you get into supply lines, fiber optic, that sort of thing, they start at about $10,000 to repair one of these things. You would have to build a tremendous amount of fence to even dig yourself up out of that financial hole from hitting one of those. It's absolutely not worth it. So we had that discussion yesterday. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on that. See where you guys sit on that subject. Jackson will be sad you missed your video. Oh, Jackson's taking a nap. Well, it's right around nap time, so it's probably a good thing. Maybe you could show him the replay later. So if you do show him the replay, I'll say, "Hey Jackson, how are you, buddy? Hope your day is going super well, and I will see you this evening." How far do you need to be from phone pole in backyard with box by pole? Yeah, it depends on their markings. So typically they'll mark about a 2 foot radius circle around those boxes, and then you'd have to be 2 foot on the outside of that on any marking. So even when they draw a circle, that's your utility marking. You would have to be 2 foot outside that circle. 2 foot off any utility. Now, does that mess with the layout of a fence? It absolutely does. It 100%. I understand. Like, it's not fun to lose the use of part of your yard. Now, I understand you don't technically lose the yard. Adverse possession is a very lengthy process that you have to meet some pretty particular stipulations to actually lose that piece of land. But nobody wants to lose the use of it. I absolutely understand, but the liability is just too great, and that's why we have liability waivers. If the homeowner is willing to accept the liability of a $3,000 to $10,000 utility bill, then we'll build a fence. That's absolutely fine. But if not, you got to change the layout. So you got to move the fence line a couple of feet. In the case of what you're talking about, the phone pole with a box, typically they're in the back corner, seems like all the time. So we have to box those out. We have to now, and it does a couple of things. One, it keeps us away from the utility, and it keeps the client's yard secure. So by keeping that utility box out of our customer's backyard, now I understand that puts them into somebody else's yard, but now our customers can lock their gates and not worry about other utility locators coming through their yard to mark someone else's, or just utility service folks in general walking into the yard, maybe not leaving the gate shut, that sort of thing. Yeah. So before we dig out in California, we call 811, and the gas and electric company comes out and lets us know if it's okay. Absolutely. So, yeah. So you got, I think California is called Cali Dig. Here in Missouri, it's called Missouri One Call. Yeah. It's always 811 in the United States. In the continental United States, it's 811. I did a video about locates and we looked it up. Canada has their own version of 811. And so, we can also go online. So we usually do all of our locates online. So ours is what is it? I think it's just mo1call.com. But of course we got saved to the browser and all that. But we just do all the locates online, let you pull up the map of or a satellite image of the property and select which one you're going to be working on, that sort of thing. And gives you a code readout right then. We used to have to do all those by phone. That was a bit of a pain because you got to sit on hold and you got to wait and you got to do, you can't do a batch of them all at the same time. You have to do one at a time. So, if you've got a week, if next week we've got 8 or 10 projects, then you got to have 8 or 10 of these conversations. Well, now that we can do them online, it's a lot easier. But if you're doing one off, yeah, you can dial 811 anywhere in the continental United States to get a hold of your area's locator. And it's completely free of charge to you, if you're a consumer, if you're a homeowner and you're planting a tree. So here's the thing: is you're supposed to call 811, your state's one call, no matter what you're doing. So the standard is if there's any soil disruption. So you could even be, if you're leveling your yard. So if you're going to scrape off some high parts of your yard, raise some low parts, just move dirt around. You're supposed to call. Digging for a tree, you're supposed to call. Technically, legally, if you're doing spring plantings in your garden, you're supposed to call. Any soil disruption, the state statute says any soil disruption, you have to call your, in our case, Missouri One Call prior to excavating. Now, is that a little bit ridiculous for flower plantings? It is, and I'm sure a lot of people don't do it, but, yeah, but you're still supposed to call. So it's pretty painless. You tell them where it is you're digging, your address, of course, and all that. Typically, it's 2 to 3 days. Of course, depends on if there's a holiday involved and all that. They do work Saturdays, so a lot of times we'll get either all clears or we'll get notifications that utilities have been flagged and marked even on Saturday, like afternoon and evening. So the locators work super hard to get that stuff done. If I send you a picture of the pole in the box, would that help out? Yeah, you bet. So let's do this. So we've got Facebook. I'm gonna have a Facebook page specifically for like Joe Everest, the fence expert, my personal YouTube page. I'm gonna type it in the comments below. You can post it over there. All right, so you guys should be seeing that come up in your chat and your comments. But that's going to be the YouTube page for my Joe Everest YouTube channel, or that's a Facebook page for my YouTube channel. It would make a lot of sense if you posted the picture like here on the Ozark Fence page. It would probably confuse just a whole lot of people about what's actually going on. But yeah, post it over there on the Facebook page. I'd love to help out however I can. Yeah, here's the thing, and here's why I direct everybody to the public page. Is we also had this conversation yesterday. So I get a lot of friend requests from people I don't know, and I can only assume that they find me through either these YouTube and Facebook broadcasts or my YouTube channel content in general. And here's the thing. So on my personal private Facebook page, I have personal and private content. I've got my kids and my family and stuff I'm personally doing with them. And it doesn't seem right to post that content like out to the world, right? That's what we're doing. It's for friends and family. So by having a bunch of work folks that my personal family doesn't know on my Facebook page, it seems like an intrusion maybe. So, and that's kind of a discussion that we had, and the decision I'd come to is that we're going to have a public facing Facebook page, which is the facebook.com/the real Joe Everest. So that kind of keeps my public and private life a little bit separated. But one guy had actually, I'll put this up on the screen for you guys. But so I'd got a message. It was either earlier this week or late last week. A friend request, and typically what I do if it's somebody that I don't know and I don't recognize, and I don't have friends in common and all that, is usually I'll just send a message, say, hey, you found my private Facebook page. I actually have a public Facebook page where I can, we can talk about fence. You can send me pictures, videos, that sort of thing. But my private Facebook page is reserved for my, family and close friends, that sort of thing. And you would have thought I had personally insulted this gentleman. He made it clear that he was not impressed with that, and that and all that. And it's not that I don't think everyone's important. And he had kind of came off. I think he had interpreted what I had said as go away, don't disturb me or something like that. But in all reality, it was just me saying, hey, this is for my family and close friends. I do have a public page. I'd love to chat with you over there about any of your fence questions. But anyway, that's what this page is for guys like Dan, you're welcome, to post fence pictures up at. And we can chat about fence stuff. And of course, I also share, so the Joe Everest YouTube content, I share on that public Facebook page. Of course, there we have a video, a pre-recorded, edited video that goes up every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We also go live I go live every Thursday from 3 to 5:30 Central Standard Time. And it's an Ask Me Anything scenario, a lot of like this, where I just sit and I chat with fence folks, and I call them a fence fam, and we talk about all things fence. So, yeah. So, guys, as you're coming in, if you're just getting here and you haven't said hello yet, be sure to say hello, and we'll say hi, and we'll catch up with you a little bit. Also, love to hear kind of where everybody's from. It seems like this channel is growing and spreading out throughout the country, so it's always fun to see where everybody's from. I know Brent's representing California, but it'd be fun to hear where everyone else is from. Well, and Ashley and Mandy are with us, and they're over from the Nashville area. So we've got Nashville and California covered so far. Dan, you might have told me where you're from. If you haven't, let me know. Dustin, he's from right here in Springfield, so he's a fellow Springfieldian. Of course, Taylor's right over next door to Springfield in Republic, so we kind of have the local area covered. Yeah. All right, so let's do this. So let me just go through the YouTube questions, and we'll just start chatting about that. Give me 1 second. I'll pull that up real quick. Of course, you guys can also post your fence-related questions. I'd love to answer those too. But until then, well, if I can operate YouTube, that would be incredibly handy here. So let's go to comments. This is on my youtube.com/Joe Everest channel. Let me see. We'll just start pulling up comments and questions from on there. So this is a good question. Now, since it's on my YouTube, I can't pull it up on screen here. Rami, Romie, had said, I did fencing for 10 years and replaced many rotten posts. When I dig up the post, the part surrounding the concrete is still solid. It's the part that is exposed to soil an inch or two below the surface that rots. This is on a video we did talking about concrete post rot myths, that sort of thing. So that's an interesting subject that Rami brings up is rot. So some folks think that the concrete itself, the pH of the concrete promotes rot in the post, and I'm sure it can, depending on what your concrete mix is composed of, lime and all that. But for the most part, whether we're talking pressure treated post or cedar post, we generally don't see that the concrete itself has rotted the post. It's typically, as Rami had said, that it's usually that first couple inches below the soil that rots the post. And so why is that? Well, that's the aerobic zone of the soil. So that's where all the microbes like to live under the dirt and all that. And they like to consume the wood because the wood holds moisture, which, once the ground gets dry enough, a lot of the organisms like to consume the moisture. It also has the wood fiber, which a lot of organisms like to consume. And so once you get all the microorganisms consuming the wood, that presents as rot. So there's a couple solutions for that. And actually, so I should have brought this up sooner when Ashley and Mandy were, which they're probably still here. If you guys are here, let us know. So they are with Sand Steel Experts, but Sand Steel Experts also sells a couple products. One of the products is a Post Saver sleeve. I believe that's termed correctly. And what this is it's a sock, more or less, that fits over your wood post, and it sits above grade a little bit, sits below grade quite a bit, and it's similar to heat shrink. So you slide it up the post, you use a heat source, a blowtorch, etc., to shrink it onto the wood to where it bonds with that wood post, so it doesn't move. It also seals that wood up really nicely, and it sits basically continuously down through that aerobic zone in the soil. So it keeps out all the microorganisms in the soil. It doesn't let them feed on the post, and it prevents rot. They also have Fence Armor, which is a post saver cap that goes, or a half cap, I guess you'd say, goes over the post above grade. So you're protecting with the post saver, you're protecting the wood underground. With the Fence Armor, you're protecting the post above ground. So the above ground cap, what it's doing is it's protecting that post against, weed eaters primarily, because we've all seen that, right? The wood fence has been around for 10, 15, 20 years, right at the grass level. All the corners are cut up and the post is pretty damaged because the weed eaters attacked it every week for, during the growing season for the last 15, 20 years. So Fence Armor is a colored aluminum piece that fits over the 4x4, and it's attached with screws that protects the post. It's the post's armor against weed eaters. So both of those are really nice products. I believe you can go, Mandy, if one of you, or Ashley, if one of you are in here and can post a link to where folks can go to find the Fence Armor and the post savers, that would be great. But it helps prevent rot. So a lot of people think, well, so we did a video review on the YouTube channel where a reaction video where one gentleman had he leaves his post, he used Sonotube and leaves his post 2, 3, 4 inches above grade, slopes it so the water doesn't collect and all that, which is one way to do it. But really, the looks of that I don't think they would be acceptable to our clients. We just replaced my fence this year. I wouldn't have accepted that if my guys did it. It just doesn't look great. So, yeah. Post Saver or Fence Armor. All right. What is up, Sean? Hello. Glad you're joining us. So Sean's also from Springfield area, pretty well represented. Well, so Sean actually knows Taylor because they both grew up in Mount Vernon. So I don't know if you'd say you works in Springfield. We'll say that. All right, Dan. So Dan sent his picture over to the Joe Everest Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest. And we'll be sure to check that out. Brent says, I just went to the dump this morning, and any pressure treated wood is now going to have to go through the hazardous waste area. Yeah. So they started that here a little while ago where, anything with pressure treatment called a hazardous material because the treatment in it, they've deemed it as hazardous. Now, how it is acceptable to be put in people's yards, but it's not acceptable at the landfill, that's a bit confusing, especially when you're taking a fence to the landfill. It's at the end of life, right? It's at that. That's why the fence is in the landfill. So, how many years has this fence been leaching chemicals that are into the ground? And you say that or the EPA says they're acceptable, but then all of a sudden, when the fence is at end of life, it's not acceptable in the general landfill. It has to go hazardous materials, which, depending on your area, hazardous material side of the landfill is significantly more expensive than the standard side of the landfill. So, I think that might be closer to the reason. Rachel says hello. Hello, Rachel. Rachel is with My Salesman. So if you guys have been on our website and used our online quote tool, say thank you to Rachel. It is a very nice tool. Actually, I was talking with a customer this morning that came in, and they had used the online quote tool, and he was very surprised at how easy it was. He said, it just what we say about it is, it's incredibly intuitive to use. It's a lot like using Google Earth. You enter your address, it pulls up a satellite image of your home. From that point, you can draw on that satellite image the layout of your fence, choose whichever fence materials you'd like to price out, and it gives you a ballpark estimate. It's incredibly easy and straightforward. And so it was good to hear that feedback from the outside clients too, is that, because we use it a lot. We use it every day. So of course for us, it's incredibly easy. It makes our lives tremendously easier. So it's good to hear it from the outside world. Yeah. And so Rachel came by, and so she and her family are from Nebraska. But so Rachel and I and so a few other guys and gals serve on the Midwest chapter of the American Fence Association, the board of directors for them. And so they were going down to a board meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. I had prior obligations, but so on her way down to Branson, she came through Springfield and took a tour of Ozark Fence. And Rachel, we were very glad to have you. I appreciate you coming down, and we get to meet face to face. So loading your flatbed earlier in the week on Facebook, was that deemed hazardous? So it would have been. So what we do, typically not much of our fence actually heads to the landfill. What we'll do is, if it's in really good shape, we'll donate it to Habitat Humanity's Habitat Restore. So it's a Brent, I don't know if you guys have them out there. So basically what it is it's a resale warehouse. So it's building materials, doors, windows, screws, whatever you can think of building material wise. But it's a second use, right? So it might be damaged or it might be previously used. So you can buy it at a discount, but then all of those funds go to further the mission of Habitat for Humanity. So if the fence is in really good condition, sometimes it is, sometimes for whatever reason that, someone had a privacy fence up, but really just wanted to replace it and put up a nice aluminum fence. But the fence is only a few years old. That's absolutely doable. And in that case, the fencing panels are still in really good shape. They are resellable. And so we'll donate those to Habitat Restore, and then they will then in turn sell them. If they're not in that good shape, which 98% of the fences we bring down are not in any sort of condition to resell, typically what we'll do is we'll bring those back to our lot, and we'll actually make them available for anyone to come pick up. So we talked to folks that are picking them up. A lot of them have crafts and hobbies. One guy in particular that comes by fairly often likes to build rustic birdhouses out of them, reclaimed birdhouses. So that's pretty neat. And then, folks will come pick through and get pickets for, if they have an older fence that just needs a picket replaced and they don't really like the looks of having a new picket in there, well, they'll try to find a good looking used picket and they'll pick it out of there, all for free. And so we typically give it away. Hardly any of our wood privacy or any of our wood materials at all end up back at the landfill. We try to repurpose those as much as possible. So no, yeah. And what's crazy is, so the load that was on that flatbed gone within about an hour. So I think folks just drive by our shop just to see, what materials are there. So a lot of times the guys will pull up, on the curb and start offloading these onto the lot where we give them away. And we'll have people stopping while we're unloading it saying, "Hey, are you guys giving that away? Could you, instead of throwing that down there, could you just throw it in my truck or in my trailer?" So yeah, sure. Typically a truckload is gone usually within about an hour and a half, maybe on the outside. So yeah. So I'll bring up this again. So Rachel came and did a tour of Ozark Fence, and she was one of the first people to see. We haven't talked about this too much, and we'll talk about this more next week when Sarah's back. But we've got some exciting expansion news coming up in the near future. So we were waiting for an ecological survey. That survey came back today, clean and clear, and so we've got the authorization to move forward to closing on an exciting new adventure. So Rachel was one of the first people outside of the Ozark Fence team to take that tour. So I was kind of excited to show a new set of eyes, the new layout and all that. So, but stay tuned in later episodes and future episodes, and you'll likely start seeing a little bit more of a different look to Ozark Fence. So, well, guys, welcome. If you guys are new, be sure to drop a comment. Let me know who you are and where you're from. If you got any fence questions, I'd sure like to say hi to you. For those of you that are just joining us, so usually we have Sarah with us because, as the title says, it is typically Ask a Fence Gal Friday, where I interview Sarah about all things Ozark Fence and beyond. We usually end up getting off on tangents and having conversations outside of fencing, such as last week. She was of the opinion that mashed potatoes are a real side, which I thoroughly disagree with. I don't think mashed potatoes are a real side because you always end up having to put something with them to make them better to eat them. I don't know anyone that just eats mashed potatoes by themselves. And so Taylor, my wife, is watching this. She thought it would be hilarious to then fix mashed potatoes for dinner. And so, did I eat them? Yes, because I'm a good husband, and they were good. I'm not going to argue that they weren't good. I'm saying the only reason I'm saying they're not mashed potatoes aren't a real side is you typically add something to them, either gravy or corn or something, or you dip your turkey in it. Like, I don't know how you got to add something to them to make them acceptable. Now, if we were to call mashed potatoes a garnishment, I think that's acceptable. I think if we lump them into garnishments, that would be perfectly fine. But I don't accept mashed potatoes as a side. So now, so we're not going to change. We're not moving away from orange. We are not. So we are still staying Ozark Fence orange because we've spent a lot of time and effort into this color, and I like it. I own a lot of orange stuff, and it is here to stay. So, but yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. This really isn't like me trying to lead you guys on. It's just that like not everything is finalized, and I have a hard time like accepting something until like it's 100% done. So we have to go through some closing procedures, etc. But I was assured this morning that it's about a week, maybe 2 weeks. It should be about a week. Worst case scenario, about 2 weeks. So we should have some more news, firm, concrete news by Christmas. So Taylor didn't get to eat the mashed potatoes. She made and this is the thing. She made them to prove a point because she can't even have mashed potatoes right now. So we are expecting a little one almost any time. So the last part of this month, the first part of next month, and so with that came a little bit of gestational, a little bit came with gestational diabetes. So unfortunately, Taylor's not allowed to eat mashed potatoes. So she made them with the sole point in mind to prove to me that they were a side because as usual she takes Sarah's side on all of these things. So yeah, anyway, yeah, she thought it was hilarious. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're having mashed potatoes for dinner tonight. Oh, really? Oh, I'm sure this has nothing to do with this being brought up on Facebook Live today and you taking my sister's side per usual instead of my own. But yes, I ate them and they were okay. But I'm just saying, they're not mashed potatoes are not an actual side. I stand by that. I really do. You can try to disagree with me, and that's fine. We can discuss it. If you want to discuss mashed potatoes, that's fine. But anyway. So so I'm just going through some of the comments on the YouTube channel. Um, we still get a significant amount of questions about the color orange. A lot of jail jokes come up, like incarceration jokes. One of them, let me see if I can find it. It was last week, so it might be down here a little ways. Yep, here's one. Why are you wearing a prison uniform? That's always a good one. A lot of these get creative. Like I really want to find this one. Oh, here it is. Yo Joe, what happens when the local sheriff chain gang cleanup crews come around and that orange outfit you got on gets mixed up with the chain gang crew and they take you to jail? So I said, "Oh, I love it. Thank you for the chuckle." I did a whole video on like why we wear orange, why we've color branded orange. And that's exactly what it is. It's branding, right? So it does a couple things. Well, one, first and foremost, it keeps my guys easily visible. Most of the time on the residential side, most of the time we're in the backyard. So we're not around roads or anything. But on the commercial side, if we're doing a compound enclosure or a perimeter fence with a drive gate, that sort of thing, shipping receiving entrance, my guys can be operating near a road or at least near a driveway that has heavy traffic. I like them to be easily visible, and if there's ever, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes there's some, if it's a large commercial project where there's a lot of crew, a lot of workers on that job site, and something happens, it comes down to, usually an email goes out. What days were your guys on site? We had an incident. What days were your guys on site? Where were they on site? That sort of thing. And it makes it really nice because now at this point, like most all the superintendents know, Ozark Fence wears blaze orange. So, like, if this guy in some grainy video of yours isn't wearing bright orange, it's not Ozark Fence. But it's also a good look that when our guys show up, they're all wearing the same shirt. It tells the customer before they even knock on the door that Ozark Fence is there. Of course, they drove up in an orange truck, and it's pretty hard to miss us. That way, everybody just kind of knows that Ozark Fence is there, and keeps us highly visible, which is always good for branding and marketing, but also to keep our customers happy and let them know that we're the ones that are there, not someone else. All right, I'm trying to go through some more comments here, come up with some pertinent information. A lot of this gets a little bit in the weeds. So one guy asked a question about 30-degree frame, 2-inch ring shank nails, just asking for opinions on that. And we got a little bit in the weeds on that. Let's see. So we talk a lot about why we don't use wood posts anymore. Um, so right now, after with the pandemic, wood products in general are getting harder to find, or have been hard to find. Not getting harder; they've been hard to find for quite a while. We switched to using only cedar for that reason. The pressure treated product in the market went from being a number one quality to now typically everything you find is number two quality, and the number two quality is still 7, 8, 9 times the cost of what number one was pre-pandemic. So if we're talking about value, if we're talking about bringing the maximum amount of value to the potential client, the future client, I don't see the value in pressure treated pine right now. Just it is very expensive. Uh, it's a lot of times pretty much the same price as cedar. I mean, you might save $1 or $2 a foot, but when we're talking about quality of the picket, it's obviously less than what a cedar product would be. And so then when we're talking about value, I think a treated pine fence would be overcharged for the value. Like I think we would have to charge too much. We'd have to charge more than the value that the customer receives. So we don't use treated pine right now. Now, can that change? Absolutely. When number one quality treated pine comes back, when the pricing comes back down to reality, and when the supply evens itself out, which typically supply has to even itself out before price comes down because everything is always supply and demand. Yeah, I mean, will we look into it in the future? Absolutely. But right now, it doesn't make any sense when there's a steel postmaster post to us costs roughly the same amount as a wood 4x4 post. So we're talking about a post that lasts 8 to 10 years, less if you're unlucky, compared to a steel post that carries a lifetime warranty. Those two things aren't even the same in terms of value received. So we only install steel posts and we only install cedar pickets and cedar rails because for the same reason that they're roughly the same cost as a treated pine and the quality is just considerably better with the cedar. So, but we get that comment a lot on YouTube about why we promote cedar only. Yep. So Rachel says up there in Nebraska, they moved away from wood posts too for the same reason. It's, you know, that's the thing is like, what do we want to offer them? Sure. Like we want to give our potential future clients all the options they could ever want. Like we want to give them exactly what they want and need. But a lot of times what they want and what they need are two different things. So they want a quality fence that will last. They don't want to replace this fence after 8 to 10 years or less if they're unlucky. They want to invest one time in a fence. So it's always that saying, right? It's you can pay for it. You can pay for it now, or you can pay more for it later. And that has a couple meanings. In that one, you can pay to have it done right now, or right now prices are fluctuating almost weekly, especially on the steel side. So on the steel side, we had a price increase November 1st, another price increase December 1st, and then there's an upcoming price increase January 1st. So they spread it out over 3 months. So just to try to keep it a little bit more manageable, I suppose. But prices are always increasing. So if you had a fence built last month and then you put the same project off for 3 months, that same project is going to cost significantly more next spring. Just as we keep going through these price increases as the market continues to fluctuate. The other way that saying makes sense, pay for it now or you'll pay more for it later, would be if you chose a lesser option. If you chose wood posts now, you're obviously going to have to pay to replace those posts in 8 to 10 years, less if you're unlucky, and then you're going to end up paying more for that fence than you would have just to install the cedar materials on steel posts today. If you did treated pine materials all the way through, realistically, like I said, lifespan 8 to 10 years, more sometimes, but less if you're unlucky. I always say that. Yeah. And so by the time you pay for that fence twice, you pay to replace that fence, then you could have been in a quality fence altogether, from the start. So that's something that we're pretty adamant about, is just providing the right value. Now, I absolutely understand there are contractors out there that are still building fence with treated pine materials. That's fine. Everyone makes their own decision about what value they want to bring the clients, right? So there's some contractors out there that will do anything to be the lowest price fencing contractor, because there's some customers that only want the lowest price fence. Every market needs those contractors. Unfortunately, that's a fence that's going to be replaced in the near future, just because the quality materials weren't there. Now, I absolutely understand. There are situations where maybe someone bought a house to renovate and sell it, and so they really aren't interested in a fence that lasts any longer than the renovation time. So hey, if this fence will last 6 months, that's premium. I'm good with that. Unfortunately, that then puts the burden of that fence onto the incoming homeowner, which might not seem fair. That you bought a new house or a newly remodeled house, and 5 to 10 years later, you're having to replace that fence. That might not seem fair. But yeah, so there are contractors out there that will still use treated pine, and that's their decision. It's everyone's decision, whether it's the future client or the contractor, on what level of quality that they want. What level of value do they want in their fence? Do they want the cheapest fence they can find? There will be somebody that will build that fence. But unfortunately, building that fence isn't good for the fence company's reputation. Just because no one gets a chance to explain that fence. So when we build a fence, we'll put our sign on it. We'll claim our work. So, 8 to 10 years later, when that fence is leaning and really getting closer to its end of life, just because the materials are failing, we don't get the chance to explain that to someone that's driving by and sees our fence sign on that fence. So simply they'll make their, assumptions about our company based on what they perceive as the quality of that fence, regardless of how it was built and what we talked to the client about and all that. So the quality of lumber says a lot about the contractor installing it. I firmly believe that. All right, we got a little bit of time left. Usually we'll go noon to 1, so we got like 15 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, drop in the comments below. I know that the chat usually lags behind the video by just a few minutes, so usually you guys see something after I say it about 15, 20, 30 seconds, something like that. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to drop comments. I'll see if I can't find a comment in here that might help. could talk about for just a minute. Let's do this. So one thing I don't think we've talked about is on the Joe Everest YouTube channel. We're right now we're doing a $10,000 giveaway. So 10K giveaway because we hit 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a massive milestone. So we're celebrating that by giving away $10,000. So what it is 10 $1,000 Amazon e-gift cards. And we're doing that just to say thank you to those that support our channel. So I will put the channel here in the chat. It is youtube.com/Joe Everest. And I'll also bring it up on the screen. So youtube.com/Joe Everest. And there is a video that is titled, let me pull it up, something to the effect of 10K giveaway. Let's see. Yep, 10K giveaway. Thank you for 10,000 subscribers. So right now there's about 2,500 views. It's been viewed about almost 2,600 times. So what that does is in the description of that video, that video will kind of explain all about it, the who, what, when, where, why of the 10K giveaway. It also had the link in the description where when you click the link, it'll take you to the giveaway site. And really all it takes to enter is your email address and whatever email address you want the e-gift card sent to. And then from there, you can get additional entries by subscribing to the channel, liking some videos, watching some videos, that sort of thing. And it goes through the end of the year to December 31st. So we still have several weeks for you guys to get involved in it. And then the first week in January, we'll go ahead and pull our 10 lucky winners for each get $1,000 Amazon e-gift card. And we'll do that live. I'm not exactly sure what day we're going to go live. And the only reason I don't know is because, like I said, we're expecting a little one. So I don't want to say that we're going to do it, say, January 5th, and then have that little one show up January 4th, and then thus not make January 5th a possibility. But that first week in January, we're going to do the live announcement. So going over to the YouTube channel, watch that 10K subscriber giveaway, enter to win. I'd love for some of the Fence fam to get a chance at that. You know, if I could give the whole 10K away to the Fence fam, that would be great. I'd like that a lot. So this is a great question. I posted a question on the Fence Professionals page. How do you measure success for your company? So many great answers. Absolutely. What are your thoughts? So there's a lot of answers to this, right? So the easy answer is revenue, but that's kind of a dangerous answer because you could do $1 million in revenue and not make a dime. You know, if the company isn't running efficiently, you know, if for a myriad of reasons, you could bill $1 million and not make a dime. I think the easy answer would probably be net profits. So at the end of the day, you know, how much money at the end of the day is a company left over with to put back into itself the next year would be a fairly easy answer. I think Mark had the answer in there that I really liked, and it was basically freedom. That, you know, for you and your team members, that you know that the weight of the entire organization doesn't rest on your shoulders. That you can take a day off or work from home for a day and feel like, you know, not everything grinds to a halt, right? That your customers are still getting really well taken care of. So I view it as internal and external customers, right? External customers would be the clients that are receiving the Fence. Your internal customers are going to be all your team members. As long as, you know, you can step away for a day and work from home or work remotely, and both your internal and your external customers and clients are taken care of and remain happy, I think that's a win. And I feel like that goes for all of our team members. You know, if all of our team members can feel like that they can step away from a day for, you know, for whatever reason, for a physical health issue, a mental health, whatever, and not feel like everything grinds to a halt, I really think that's success. It shows you that you've got things organized in such a manner that has redundancies built in. And yeah, I think that would be success for me, Rachel. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear your what you feel is success, measure success. What is up, Fence King? Orangey Glass Friday, buddy. I am. What is up, Fence King? That's funny. So we do a lot of orange jokes on the Facebook page. I think it's Sunday that we have those scheduled to go out, and those are like my favorite posts, just because they're like the corny dad jokes that are orange. So like one, what was it? It was last week, I think. Was a picture. It was a banana and an orange sitting next to each other, and the banana is like knocking on the door. He's like, "Why do I got to keep knocking?" And the orange says, "Shut up, or you'll ruin the joke." I thought that was pretty good, and I chuckle at him because I'm a dad and I get dad humor. So yeah. All right, guys. So we've got just a few more minutes here till we wrap up. Appreciate you guys sticking around with me, even though Sarah's not here. I think we all know that Sarah is the main draw to this channel. Her answers are usually better than mine, and she usually has better content to talk about. So, yeah. Let me find one more question or comment on here. Talked about the post concrete. So this was an interesting one. So it says, correct me if I'm wrong. This is Christopher Trafnik, Trafnik, over on the YouTube channel. It says, correct me if I'm wrong. I was told if the post can be steady without concrete to make the hole a little larger than your post diameter, backfill with the excavated soil. It's better than putting the post in concrete because of rot. I absolutely disagree with this. Well, one, it doesn't meet ASTM standards. That there's not an ASTM standard that I'm aware of that is for just compacting dirt back into the hole. Typically, yeah, we talked about this before. Actually, we talked about this earlier with the concrete. It's not the concrete itself that rots the post; it's the soil around the post that rots it. Just because it's the aerobic zone of the soil, so it's where all the microbes live, and they like to feast on the wood offerings, the moisture or the fiber in the wood that presents itself as rot. So by not concreting the post, you almost give those more of a buffet to choose from, I'd say. All right, well, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. If you guys have any fence questions, comments, concerns, etc., drop them in the comments below. Even after this video is done, Sarah and I watch the comments on the videos throughout the week. She and I both kind of share social media duties. So we'll see them and we'll write them up on our whiteboard and we'll bring them up next week. Of course, you can also shoot the Facebook page a message, the Ozark Fence Facebook page. That message comes to both of us. You can email us. Sarah is Sarah with an H, SARAH at ozfence.com. Any questions for me can come to Joe at ozfence.com. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you sticking with us. We got one last comment. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that. Brent's such a good guy. You are all good people. Don't get me wrong, but Brent's exceptionally good people. Yeah, I appreciate you guys sticking around, even though Sarah wasn't here to liven up the show and to make it a little bit more interesting. You guys stuck it out with me, and I appreciate that a lot. But for now, no, I'm not going to do that one. So I was getting ready to do my YouTube sign off, but that's a different sign off altogether. But yeah, so how do we end it? Usually Sarah ends this, I think. Yeah, so we appreciate you joining us for, I guess this is getting back to Ask a Fence Guy Friday today. Sarah is planning to be with us next week to explain what all happened today and that she hasn't gone aloof and quit Facebook forever. And she's, as far as I know, she's not investigating claims of aliens that live within the moon, but never know what she does in her free time. Am I right? Guys, for now, Joe with Ozark Fence, and I appreciate you guys sticking with us. I'll see you guys next week for Ask a Fence Gal.